Hey you guys, we're back with our book. Okay, so I couldn't stop thinking. I'm like, dude, I want to hear more. I want to hear more. So let's get into it. I know we were on 10 for the second example. I remember that. Okay, so like I've said many of times now, Between Life and Death by Dolores Cannon. Okay. And where we left off last was Dolores giving us accounts of people while they're under hypnosis and what actually happens to them right after they've passed after they've died in a previous life. So she's actually taking them to the moment right after they've died in their previous life. Okay, so let's see. So it says, another example concerns a little girl who died at the age of 9. When I first began speaking to her, she was going on a hayrack ride to a school picnic in the late 1800s. There was a creek near where the picnic would be held, and the others would be going swimming. She couldn't swim very well and was afraid of the water, but she didn't want the other children to know of it for fear they would make fun of her. Since some of the others had fishing poles, she had decided she would pretend to fish so no one would know she couldn't swim. The little girl was really worried about it and was not enjoying the hayride at all. I told her to move forward to an important day when she was older. When I finished counting, she announced happily, "I'm not there anymore. I'm in the light." This was a surprise, so I asked what had happened. So, the woman says, "Sadly, I couldn't swim. The dark just closed in on me. I felt my chest burning. And then I just came out into the light and it didn't matter anymore." Dolores says, "Do you think the creek was deeper than you thought?" She says, "I don't think it was that deep. I got real scared. I think my knees just folded up and I couldn't stand up. I was just scared." Dolores says, "Do you know where you are?" She says and it says her voice was still childish. "I'm in forever." Dolores says, "Is anybody with you?" Oh, so I guess she was talking in a childly manner, right? So Dolores says, "Is anybody with you?" She says, "They're working. They're all busy, contemplating what they have to do. I'm trying to get the hang of everything." And I've heard spirits like that I've reached out to that had just passed, family members and others, friends and things like that, where it's happened many of times where they say that they're busy, they're working, right? They're working because they're watching after us. That's their work. Well, at least that's what I think. We'll see what Dolores thinks, right? So Dolores says, "Do you think you've ever been to this place before?" She says, "Yes, it's very peaceful here, but I'll go back. I must overcome fear. Fear is something you bring on, and it is paralyzing. I don't really think the water was deep. I think I doubled up because of my fear. The worst thing that can happen usually isn't as bad as what we fear." And then her voice was now more mature. "It's a monster in man's mind. A fear only affects those on earth. It's the carnal mind, and the spirit is left unaffected." Dolores says, "Do you think when people are afraid of things that they draw it to them?" She says, "Oh yes, you bring those things upon yourself. Thought is energy." And I say that all the time. Your thoughts are everything. It is creative and it makes things happen. And Spirit told me that one time. They told me, they said, "T, you create events. Your thoughts create events." So that's what creates our reality, is our thoughts. It's easy to see how another person's fears can be silly and unimportant. And you think, why would they be afraid of that? Yet when it's your fear, it's so deep and so personal and so touching that it just engulfs you. So if I can look at another person's fears and try to help them understand theirs, I think somewhere along those lines, it would help me understand the ones I had. Wow. And that goes with guides. Like, I think, like, you know, why somebody would be a spirit guide, because you share that like-mindedness, you share that that life path, you know, and that wisdom. So Dolores says, that makes a lot of sense. You know, one of the biggest fears people have is that they are so afraid of dying. And the woman says, that's not so bad. That's the easiest thing I'll ever do. It's like the end of all confusion until you start all over again. And then it's even more confusion. Then why do people keep coming back? The woman says, you must complete the cycle. You must learn all and overcome all things of the world so you can enter into perfection and everlasting life. And I always say it all the time. I'm like, dude, I know I got it this lifetime. I finally broke the cycle and learned the lesson. This lifetime I got it. I just feel it in my soul. So that's good. That's a good thing, right? So she says, then why do people keep coming back? She says, okay, you must complete the cycle. You must learn all, overcome all things. Okay. Dolores says, that's a big order though, to try to learn everything. She says, yes, sometimes it's very tiring. Seems like it would take a long time. Well, from where I am here, it all seems so simple. I am in control. For instance, I can understand the fear and the way I feel now. I feel like I couldn't be touched by it. Yet there's something about the human person. When you're there, it engulfs you. I mean, it becomes a part of you and it touches you, and it's not so easy to stand off and be objective. That's so interesting. Like, oh my gosh. Dolores says, no, it's because you're emotionally involved. It's always easy for someone else to look at it and say, how simple. The woman says, it's like looking at somebody else's fears. I must learn to endure and stay with a life and not leave until I can't take as much as I possibly can from that life. So she feels like she cheated herself, you know, she gave up too soon. When she was a 9-year-old that drowned, she's saying that she could have lived. She could have overcame her fear and actually stood up and not drowned. So she says, I think if I had a life that I could stay with to go through many experiences, it would be much easier than going through so many short lives. And I think that's what my deal is this time. I've gone through so much because I think my soul figured, you know what? Let's knock all this shit out in one go. You know, like on some real shit. That's what's happening. Every possible thing, I swear, has been given to me. It's crazy. So she says that she will choose carefully to get one. Where she can experience as many things and therefore limit her trips back. She says, but I also think it will be harder. There are certain things you have to work out between people while interacting in a relationship. What you do comes around. That's that karma wheel, baby. It never misses a beat. There has long been an expression in our culture that when you are dying, your life flashes before your eyes. This has occurred in some of the cases I have investigated. It happens more often after death when the deceased looks back over their life and analyzes it to see what they have learned from it. This is often done with the help of the masters on the other side, who are able to look at the life more objectively with emotions removed, right? Because that person would still kind of be looking at it from the human standpoint, but the masters come in to help to minus that emotion. And I think that's also a part of that, the transition, when you get to the other side, you know, realizing, okay, I'm not attached to that emotion anymore. And then you can look outside of it and you can actually see why you reacted that way, why things unfolded in the manner that it did. She said, Dolores says, one of my subjects was able to review her past life in an unconventional way. Although it's difficult to say what is conventional and what follows a set pattern when you're working in this field of regressive hypnotic research. The woman had just relived a past lifetime through regression and had come to the point of death in that life. She died peacefully as an old woman and watched as her body was taken to a hilltop near her home to be buried in a family cemetery. Then instead of going on to the other side, she decided to return to her home to try to complete some unfinished business. Oh shit, what are we getting to? There, she was startled to find herself appearing as a ghost and having the ability to walk through walls. She saw herself as a fog or mist in the shape of a person, but she was amazed to discover that furniture and objects could be seen through her, as though she was transparent. It was very interesting to her to find herself in this strange condition, and she wandered through the house, discovering what she was able to do. At one point, she overheard the chambermaid's remark that the old woman was haunting the house because they could hear her walking around. Whoa. Okay, so that kind of gives us a real wide open look at the whole ghost phenomenon thing, right? Because if this is the case, then that's what we're seeing. We're seeing them coming back, taking care of their unfinished business and coexisting amongst us, you know? And she's just in there living like I'm Marley. Sorry guys, my daughter came down in her underwear and now she's crying, my poor baby. Because she thinks that she did something bad, but I was like, Marley, come here, baby. Come here. It's all right. It's okay. We put clothes on. Relax. Oh my goodness. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Look. You gotta wipe them tears. So everybody can say hi to you and see your pretty face. I love you. You're gonna sit on mommy while I read then? Okay. All right, let's see where we were. Trying to see where we were, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. After a while, being a ghost became boring because she knew no one could see or hear her, and she was unable to communicate. She soon discovered that she would not be able to accomplish whatever she had gone back to the house to do because of her unsolid state. The instant she came to this revelation, she was out of the house and standing on a hill overlooking a valley. Her deceased husband had come to meet her and was standing next to her. In that dimension, they were young again, looking exactly as they had on the day of their marriage. As they stood arm in arm looking out over the valley, it became a valley of lives. But it was more or less like a valley of life. She later described this as if a brightly colored palette or quilt had been thrown over the valley, and it appeared as a collage of scenes and places from the life she just left. Whoa. Instead of her life passing before her eyes in linear fashion, one scene followed the other. The whole thing was laid out before them. So it was like a movie. What? Hang on, I gotta get the baby real quick.